Welcome to the Double Shot with your favourite cousins, James and Alex Fitzgerald. Cuzzy's take on Melbourne, or more correct here, is I take on Melbourne with Robin, a.k.a. you, cuz, by my side. Welcome to the studio. Can we call it a studio? I'm not quite sure.
I don't know, but I'm exhausted. That took half an hour to set us up. It was a long, drawn-out process. Tell you what, it is beautiful to be in Melbourne. Week 1 of footy finals. But a wedding on Saturday. I got another one coming up on Thursday, as do you, cousin of ours.
Yeah.
Cousin Joel.
All cousins.
Yeah. And there's just a great vibe down in Melbourne at the moment.
It's the place to be, and I feel like we are absolutely back to normal. There's people everywhere. I mean, I took you down to Gordon Espresso before because, we really couldn't do the double shot without a little double.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys. Cheers.
Yeah.
And I think it's the busiest I've seen it in a while. All the staff are back. Well, maybe not all of the staff.
Yeah.
Now, I thought there was something that I would introduce to the podcast because you have been banging on about fun facts. In fact, you end every segment with what you say is a fun fact, but it's actually not that fun. So I have started a actual fun fact segment where I bring real fun facts to the pod and they're fun in the sense that, are they relevant? No. Will you be a more interesting person to know these? Yeah, probably. You could be that know-it-all at the BBQ. So I'm starting a new segment. It's called the Fun Fact segment.
All right.
Would you like me to
hit me with the first one?
The first fun fact. Yeah. I thought this was fun in a sort of way. In Japan, non-smokers get 6 days more of annual leave than smokers because of the time smokers go outside for a smoke during the workday. I don't know how the Japanese have quantified it into 6 days, but they have, and I would like to introduce that effecto immediato to JLF Corp. So I thought I'd run it by you, the MD. I don't smoke. I would like those extra 6 days. And is it discrimination in Australia? Probably. But hey.
That is a fun fact.
Is Japan onto something?
That is a fun fact. What does 6 days add up to over the course of a year? I guess there's 48 weeks, in a year.
Yeah.
So you're getting 6 days, which is basically 1 in 8 days. The working day is 8.5 hours. So I guess they're assuming the typical smoker spends about an hour of their 8.5 hour day smoking.
You just did some quick maths there that, quite frankly, I couldn't keep up with. So when you said, what is 6 days? In my head, I was thinking, mate, it's 6 days.
Hey, I've got something, by the way, off the top here. Got some feedback come through over the weekend from a big listener of ours, Clifford Turtleneck.
Oh, no.
And Clifford has hit me up on a text here, and he said, this is one for Alex. He was going through last week's podcast, and he said, on the Victorian social tax, I note that Alex says it's off the table for this government. Doesn't mean, though, that they won't jam it through Parliament when they form the next, capital letters, next government post-election, in brackets November 2022. And I'm sure Andrews will consult extensively. He's got some bunny ears around the consult extensively next time. So a bit of feedback from Clifford. I don't know if you've got a view or a bit of live real-time feedback for Clifford.
Yeah, I didn't say that, Clifford, thank you. But I was actually quoting the Treasurer of Victoria. He said it is off the table for this government. And maybe he was selective on his technicalities. But a relevant thing to bring up, because I'm not a real maybe I'm unaware of myself, but I'm not really politically in any way. Yeah, okay, you do.
Bullshit.
Whoa, he said bullshit. Bring it on. Look, it's election fever. There's election fever. I've been going back and forth to Adelaide the last few weeks a lot. I'm in there tomorrow for the day as well. And they've got all their election posters everywhere. So all their, more localised councils and everything's happening. And it's probably more relevant to me than it's ever been a state election in South Australia because of all the work we do there and all of our clients that have gone into that market, myself, yourself of recent. It's really interesting to see what's happening. I love asking every developer and builder that I see, hey, what do you think's going to happen? What do you think's going to happen? And seeing what they say.
And what's the consensus on the ground?
The consensus on the ground, which is not necessarily absolute, as we all know, last federal election was probably the biggest wake-up call of that, is that Labor is going to get in. Now, it's interesting because in 2018, the Liberal state government were voted in South Australia after 16 years of a Labor government. So, does that mean that SA are typically skewed towards Labor? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But most developers also say they're really not too dissimilar in South Australia. They're actually quite similar. And in fact, the Labor Party are a little bit right. But you've actually put in here their election spending promises. And I mean, you sort of look at this and you go, Labor might have the upper hand here. And they certainly seem to have the attention of the locals in SA. But by the way, the SA election is this weekend. Sorry, that's what I meant to mention. It is this weekend, the 19th of March. So I'm kind of looking forward to our pod.
We'll know next week. I don't know anything about Adelaide or South Australian politics. I only go off what I read in the paper, and it's really interesting because the Labor government have committed $3 billion worth of spending in going into this election. The Liberal government have held the line and said, no, we're only going to spend $1 billion. So it's a very you don't often see such a big gap in terms of what their commitments are. Labor spending a lot of money. The Liberals sort of saying, look, the reason you should elect us is because we're not going to spend the money. I don't know who's right or wrong. Labor is spending it on schools and infrastructure and seemingly good stuff. It'll be interesting to see, obviously, what the consensus is come this time next week when we record.
It will be. And whilst we're on the topic of election fever, if you will, very topical here in Victoria, most lockdown city in the whole entire world, and our election, as Clifford has brought up and reminded the people, is in November. So some interesting political plays. And they are saying that the federal Liberal and Labor are watching us very closely down here. What's going to happen? What are the responses to the people here? And will it indicate what happens on a federal level? But Dan Andrews has just yesterday brought out a sick pay guarantee for casual workers. So, you get a certain amount of sick days when you are a full-time employee, like ourselves. However, you don't normally get that if you're a casual. You get paid by the hour and when you rock up to work. But here, he has now opened up the availability to 150,000 plus people in hospo, retail, supermarkets, cleaning, food services and disability care, where they can be eligible for 5 days per year of sick pay, and it equates to about $700. Yeah. Very interesting trial. Thoughts, feelings, concerns, any of any reason?
I probably don't know enough about it. It's going to cost a lot of money, though. It's probably a good thing if you're a casual employee. I didn't realise there were so many. That 150,000 is quite a lot. Look, I really don't know. I guess there's I don't have a view one way or the other. What I do know, though, and I've got this on very good authority, can't tell you my source, otherwise I'd have to, you know what? The federal election has not been announced yet, but I have it on good authority that it will be held on May the 14th.
What's your authority?
My authority is good authority. That's all you need to know.
Sorry.
Hey, no, none of that. Enough political talk. Come on, that's not what the people want to hear about. Let's get into interesting stuff.
Sorry.
We'll have a short break and come back in a little bit and talk about the land market and what's going on.
All right, we haven't given enough attention to the greenfield market in quite a while. But last week, the Urban Development Institute of Australia, also known by their acronym, the UDIA, had a pretty nifty little webinar last week to talk about the land supply in Australia. Because land supply it's an interesting, peep into that first, second home buyer market and a lot of that new construction world. And of course, where there is or is not supply feeds quite significantly into those new dwelling numbers and what first home buyers are doing. So what are the meat and bones of what the UDIA and Mr. Colin King say about themselves?
Yeah, so great, really good report that came out afterwards, and they basically said, look, land has been very popular. CoreLogic were on that one as well. Land's been very popular, which we all know. Houses have done a lot better than units, particularly in the last 18, 24 months as a result of COVID, people wanting more space and lifestyle. The report really just confirmed it. There was 32,000 blocks of land sold in Melbourne alone in the year 2021. Now, to put that in perspective, in all of Australia in 2019, there was 28,000 blocks of land sold. Melbourne sold 32,000 in the last 12 months. Absolutely smashed every other rival. It was up by nearly double on the year before that. And the closest rival was Southeast Queensland, which had 16,000. Then you had, interestingly enough, Perth had more land sales, 9,300. Then Sydney at 9,000. Then Adelaide following it at just under 6,000. To put it all in perspective, the land sales have gone from 29,000 in 2019 to 54,000 in 2020 calendar year.
Yeah.
To 76,000 2021. So there's an absolute rush. What it means is there is, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, there is 0.3 of a month's land supply in Southeast Queensland and Sydney. There's, but hold on.
0.3.
A little bit better in Melbourne. There's half a month. So you've got a fortnight. You've got a fortnight to get some land. Adelaide.
This is ridiculous.
Adelaide 1.5 and 2.8 in Perth. They say that a balanced market sits between 3 and 4 months, so seriously undersupplied in all markets. I'm going to hit you with a pop quiz here.
All days.
What do you reckon the average size is of a block of land in Melbourne?
360 square meters.
371. Not bad.
She was close.
What do you reckon? What do you reckon the average size then is of a block of land in Adelaide?
God, I love pop quizzes. I think Adelaide would surprise us. You'd think smaller market, smaller city, bigger blocks. But I think they also are like the king and or queen of terrace homes, which is like that smaller offering. Sorry, I'm talking through how I'm going to answer this question.
Take your time.
390 square meters.
450, wrong.
Fudge. Fudge.
And for the I'll give you some makeup points here. What do you think Southeast Queensland average lot size is?
420 square meters.
401, a lot closer. And then round us out here, Perth and Sydney. What do you think they are respectively?
Oh, my days. Perth I've got no handle on, so I'm just going to go 450 square meters.
And Sydney?
Sydney, I think, is 323 square meters.
Perth is 375. Sydney is 360. So smallest lot size goes Sydney, Melbourne, followed by Perth, then Southeast Queensland and Adelaide.
It was fun.
Yeah. Thought I'd mix it up a little bit.
So basically, Cuz, when you're looking at a 400 square meter block of land and you think it's small, think again, because in most of those capital cities, it is bigger than the average block. So get your dirty little mittens on that 400 square meter pronto.
And then, well, can I do another little pop quiz with you? Because I love how excited you get when you get to answer the questions.
I love it.
What do you reckon the average lot price is of a Melbourne block of land? Of all the 32,000 blocks that sold in 2021, what do you think the average price was?
Average, not median.
Average. In fact, sorry, median.
Oh, this guy. Okay, I think the median is higher than the average. I feel like the median, because I'm thinking of the Southeast Corridor, is freaking high. I reckon it's 407,000.
327.
Whoa, I'm surprised.
They may be putting some of the far north of Melbourne blocks in there, which brings it down.
Yeah, and also I guess when you're cutting smaller blocks and Melbourne's going hard on medium density, so townhouse sites, that would probably be included.
Yeah, so $327,000, and that's getting you a 370 square meter block. And then last one, Adelaide, because Adelaide is your little baby. What do you reckon, knowing that the average lot size is 450 square metres, or the median rather, what then do you think is the median lot price in Adelaide?
400. I reckon it's median. 190.
Oh, 187. That's real good.
Come on.
It's real good.
Queen of the South.
That's why they
lives on.
call you the Queen.
They do.
And for those listening at home who live in different parts, 272,000 in southeast Queensland. That's getting you 400 square metres. Perth, 215,000, but it is only getting you 375 square metres. And Sydney, wowee, you're paying $544,000 for 360 square metre plot of land in that region.
Can I just say something here? If we're talking about median size lot and then median price, they're not necessarily marrying up.
Sorry, it isn't. No, it's median lot size. So I stitched you up on that first question. It wasn't average.
No.
Median lot size, median lot price. So technically, if they're both at the middle, it's the same block.
Okay. We'll take that up. We'll take that up later on our third coffee for the day.
How cool would it be? What we're going to try and do is we're going to get producer Nick to see if he can get our listeners to participate in that next time. Wouldn't that be cool if the next time the State of the Land report comes out, if we could somehow find a way for podcast listeners to get to play along at home? That'd be pretty cool.
What if we just got the youngsters in our office to do it, and if they get the wrong, it's an immediate fire?
Oh, brutal.
And, of course, I'm just kidding to anyone from Fair
Trading, ACCC, Fair Work. We've got them all on our back now. Right, so going from the median, the middle end of the market, to the other end, the top end.
The upper quartile, we drink with our pinkies up.
In fact, they've been labelled the ultra-rich. The ultra-rich. I don't know
about that.
What category do you have to – what's the criteria for being deemed ultra-rich, I wonder?
Well, according to this graph, if you're purchasing a $3 million plus home, you're in the ultra-rich category.
Wow. And what
Wow.
and what do you
Owen Wilson.
And what do we know about the ultra-rich?
Well, not a lot. They're very private people. We know that usually they choose very flagrant coloured McLarens. Okay, so in 2021, the number of houses that sold for more than 10 million, which, by the way, that should be the ultra-rich category.
That surely is the ultra-rich.
Soared by 66%.
Wow. Nearly doubled.
That is, wow.
I actually find it fascinating that there's more than 600 homes in Australia that sold for more than $10 million. That's a lot of money.
It really is a lot. Like, how many homes? We have about, 10 million? No, 10 million homes?
Yeah.
9?
Yeah, about 10 million homes in Australia.
Oh, wow. So what is 600 as a percentage? But that's the ultra rich, basically.
Well, yeah, but that's only the ones that sold last year. I just feel like you don't read about 600 homes selling for more than $10 million. A lot of money.
That is true. People are sitting on their homes as well that are extremely expensive. So they're the ultra rich in our category. And then you've got actually 12,000 homes transacted last year above $3 million. I'm a little bit less surprised about that, but 12,000 is still a considerable amount. Especially, when we've got these amazing sales volumes last year. But in fact, we had a 5-year listing low. So, we didn't list everything that we possibly could have. A lot of hoarding going on. We still managed to transact $3 million homes plus 12,000, in fact. So pretty amazing stuff. They are some significant numbers. And, we've had low interest rates for quite some time now. And when I started in the business, say, I think it was 10 years ago, we just hit on par with the lowest interest rates had ever been. I think it was 3.95 or something like that. And it was like, wow, whoa, what an amazing time. And they've gone progressively lower and lower. So, you have to think of everything that's happened in the last few years and go, we've had really low interest rates. They've gotten even lower. People haven't been spending their money overseas. We've also had a massive cash injection into our economy. It's stayed within our economy, within our borders mostly. And is this the result of that on a macro but also very simplistic scale?
No doubt. And Sydney leading at 8,000 of the 12,000 homes that sold for more than $3 million were in Sydney. Nearly 500 of the 640 in Sydney as well. So Sydney clearly is a market for the ultra-rich, their playground, it would seem. Budget night is next Tuesday. And
Bouger.
Quite controversial, actually, going back full circle to what we were talking about at the outset with the politics. Shane Warne's memorial. I had the great honour and privilege of doing a run on Saturday in Melbourne. Got to run past Warnie's statue. And there's about a carton of VBs littered around his statue at the front of the MCG, a few packs of darts, a few cans of baked beans, some scarves, all sorts of memorabilia. It's pretty cool to see. His memorial is happening next Tuesday evening. And it's controversial because also on Tuesday evening is the budget. So there's a few people saying, that Victorian Labor government has stitched up the Liberals on their budget night here by putting the Shane Warne Memorial. And I know what I'd rather be watching if I'm tuning in at Tuesday around 8 o'clock at night. So in any event, we will be seeing the budget next Tuesday. And one of the announcements that's coming out, which probably good news for some, is the pension. It's going up. There's an increase to the pension coming, which no doubt will be welcomed by those in that category. The pension's going up by 2%. So it's controversial because that's about what inflation is. But a lot of people saying, well, fuel's going up by like 10 and 20%. So it doesn't feel like it's enough. Tell me, what do you reckon the pension is in Australia? If you had to have a guess, and this has been a bit of a pop quiz themed podcast, I do appreciate. What do you reckon the pension is in Australia?
I am on the grill today. Now, is this for a single or a couple?
Single. Go single first.
I mean, is this a full pension? 100%?
100% pension.
You're not being docked anything for owning, investment properties and the likes.
So for singles, you've got to own less than $600,000 worth of assets to be eligible.
Okay.
For couples, it would be about $900,000.
And is that your own home included
Yep.
or not included?
Your own home is not included.
Okay. The last that I knew for an absolute fact, maybe not, 24,000.
I think that's about right. It's going up to 25,607.
I feel very good about myself yet again within this podcast. Thank you.
Well done. Couples, it's 38,700. So they're the new figures. Not a lot of money in all honesty. When you consider the cost of petrol these days is just going through the roof.
Yeah.
And other things. So they're getting a 2.1% increase. It's going to add $2.2 billion worth of cost to the government's budget. So a lot of money.
As pop quiz question back on you. What's the minimum wage?
Minimum wage, actually, I would say for a full-time worker, I'd say it's about 44,000. Do you know something I don't?
No, I'm just trying to, if the minimum wage is, let's say it's 40,000, right? It's probably a little bit higher than that, but let's say it's 40,000 and you're expected to live on $24,000 as a pensioner. I don't know.
Tough going. Certainly tough going.
It is tough going. And I know and I appreciate that a lot of our baby boomers are retiring and less are entering the workforce. But, we also know that we've got to bring in skilled migration to pay their taxes and uphold those pensioners. Sorry. So,
Matt, I had a really sobering reality check on the weekend. Borrowed a friend's car, used a bit of fuel. So I thought, I'll do the right thing. I'll fill it up. And I went and filled it up for her. And lo and behold, I got a quarter of a tank. Nearly had to take out a second mortgage to pay for the fuel. I was like, when did fuel? It's $2 like 30.
It is so
$2.30 for a litre.
$2.30.
That's what I got stung with.
Salty. Were you inner city fill up? What was that? $2.30.
I don't know, somewhere around Melbourne. Maybe it's higher
Also,
in
back up. You only filled a quarter. You're a
No.
you are just.
But it was full when
Well, I've only driven at least 5K, so I'm not going to fill up more than I've driven this car.
No. I'm not getting kibosh with that. No, it was a full tank. I used a quarter. I could only fill it up to full. You can't fill it more than the tank will take.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's called. It's been called in the papers. Maybe to round out here, it's been called stagflation, is what they're calling it. Where we have typically what stagflation is where you've got high unemployment, you've got low economic growth, low wage growth, right? But you've got high inflation, which is what we are seeing. We don't have high unemployment though.
Oh.
So technically we're not in stagflation, but we are in a version of it where we don't have wage growth. We don't have economic growth. In other words, we aren't spending a lot more.
Yeah.
But the price of certain things is going up astronomically as a result of supply shortages. And that, to come full circle, is the criticism being levelled at the government over the 2% pension increase, because the cost of living is going up by more than that on most sort of staple items out there at the moment.
It's a hard one, isn't it? And sorry, I won't blabber on about the conversation, but you know, you see like the libs, the federal libs copping a lot of flack for high cost of living. But we've got a strong economy, but we don't have that wage growth.
Yeah.
It's like the headlines are cost of living, ScoMo, this and that. But then on the other side, it's like, we've got actually quite a strong economy, low inflation compared to other countries, low debt, great house price growth, and really good unemployment rates, really low unemployment rates. So it's a funny one. So just wouldn't want to be ScoMo at this point in time.
Don't know. Well, they say the Reserve Bank is the authority on all this. They think it's going to settle down. It's a short-term thing. But, a war in Ukraine probably isn't helping things either. Hey, that is enough. We will do a full recap, no doubt, on the budget next week. We may even do, I don't know, did we do a special episode? We'll figure out a way to cover it.
We don't want to lose followers here. We don't want to.
We're going to do a full recap on the budget.
We will figure out a way to talk about the highlights and what it means for the everyday person. It's been a pleasure to record in person. We'll do the quick shots later this week, no doubt. Guys, any tips for me? Any coffee shops I should look for while I'm in Melbourne?
Just get in the passenger seat, cuz, and come for a bit of a ride. I'm taking you on the tour of tours throughout the week while you're here. We're going to maximise your time. Guys, thanks so much for listening. Send us your questions as always. And stick around for quick shots coming on Friday, dropping to. And hey, if you've never reviewed this podcast, it's time. Don't be harsh, but be honest. 5 stars. Thank you very much. Sounded like an Uber driver.
See you guys.
Thanks for listening to another episode of The Double Shot with your favourite cousins, Alex and James Fitzgerald. If you've got a burning question or something we absolutely need to talk about on the pod, please write to us. Both of our emails are in the show notes. For little real estate tidbits and a little bit of banter, okay, a lot of banter, you can follow us on the gram. Our handle is thedoubleshot.podcast. That, my friends, is thedoubleshot.podcast. Until next time, think of us when you sit back and sip your next double shot.